What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another spoiler recap here at Big Gold Bell Media. Today, we're going to talk about the Sympathizer, episode 4, which is titled Give Me Some Good Lines, or Give Us Some Good Lines, matter of fact. This episode will be premiering on May 5th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on HBO, and then also streaming on Max. I'm going to say it just off the top. Least favorite episode so far out of the 4.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now about this episode?
Yeah, no, the fact that you and I are still, even though we've watched it and gone back and forth, we're still trying to piece things together, shows how in most parts of this episode, it just didn't hook me.
Yeah,
there are some good parts. There are some intense performances, but aside from that, there's really nothing to write home about. And we didn't really get a lot of answers to the ongoing question of, is the captain making all this up?
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. To add on to that, I feel like that's the biggest surrounding question of what's going on right now. And
right.
I mean, if it is, then I mean, he's a hell of a storyteller from what I'm thinking. But yeah, we just didn't get many questions answered. Honestly, it just kind of provided us with, I don't know, it just felt like I don't want to say a filler episode, but that's what it felt like. It felt like
it did.
We really didn't get much background into what we already didn't know about the captain, but also about what's going to happen going forward in probably episode 5. Like, it kind of left me kind of blank as far as to, I have no idea what's going to happen in episode 5 if this was episode 4. Did you have any like immediate predictions after you saw episode 4 as to what was going to happen in episode 5 coming up next?
No, and I think aside from the fallout of the movie, there's really nowhere, and maybe the audience can let us know, or the viewers down below, let us know in the comments, like, what are we not connecting here that we might be missing? Because for us, it felt like a filler episode, and I hate to say it that way, but if anything, what this did was show that the captain has a crush on the general's daughter. Yeah, that's what it really showed us.
Wow, boy. Yeah, and speak a little bit on that in just this episode. This episode basically picks up where, I guess you could say where it left off, because Mikos, Damianos, Mikos Damianos, who is played by Robert Downey Jr. Again, another character that we got to see at the end of episode 3 that we're introduced to, who was a director that loves to get some sweets after dinner, obviously, is what they like to call it. And he has this this movie that he wants to direct and he wants to shoot, but he's like supposedly a famous director in this world, I guess you could say. He is the Martin Scorsese of the 1970s in this timeline.
He's basically based off of Francis Ford Coppola.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So he's trying to create the most authentic version of the Vietnamese War. I guess not a recap, but a reenactment, I guess. Film.
Yes, reenactment.
And he's trying to give people in America that experience, and he's really like trying to make sure they're in the stuff, like they're really into it. And it seems like an ongoing theme that all the characters are saying from RDJ is like, get wet, get in there, get in the stuff, get in the dirt. And I'm like, all right, switch it up. Let's switch it up. Are we the same person, or are we a different person at this point? So yeah, just basically having a conversation with the captain, trying to figure out, hey, are you going to be a part of this? And why did Hammer, as well as Claude and I believe the senator, why do they all, I guess, suggest you? And of course, he's obviously one of the right hand or left hand men of Claude, so he automatically got a shoe in this. And there's a moment where Damianos is basically thinking like, oh man, they're probably here to put you here to spy on me at this point. So
yeah, he has the freak out
back and forth, right?
Yeah, that's I thought it was satire. I thought he was joking when he's like, "Oh, you're here to spy on me."
Right.
So I thought he might have been tweaking, but oh no, it was like, you're the spy of the spy. So can you be my spy?
Yeah, exactly.
Against the other spies, like what?
Yes. And of course, the whole entire time, the captain is trying to kind of deflect it, like, oh, what? No, I'm not a spy. Like, I'm only on one side, you know? Yeah, terrible liar. He's just not good at it. And like we said, I mean, maybe like the worst liars can be the best spies, because who would really believe their lies? So it's kind of like hiding in plain sight type things, what it seems
Correct.
like. But yeah, so I mean, he eventually gets this job offer that he accepts to be I guess he's the
The consultant.
authenticity
He's the
coach, I guess you could
authenticity
say.
consultant.
Right.
Yes.
Consultant, sorry, to make sure that this movie is going to be thorough and Vietnamese as possible to be accurate as possible for the viewers. And he accepts the job and he decides, there's a couple people I got to tell before I get to go. So of course, Sandra Oh's character, not Sandra Oh, Sandra Oh, I got it right this time. Who is Sophia Moore, and he has to let her know, like, hey, I'm going to go do this. And she's like, are you sure you want to do this? She kind of like is kind of hesitant about him actually going because it seems like he's just being played as a patsy, I guess, at this point. Or,
plus he's going to be gone for 16 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, 16 weeks, I believe, right?
So she going to miss her cake source. I mean,
yeah, her employee is what we like to call it as well. But it's crazy because like she's not the type to be
attached
to people, right? And I was like, you're the one talking about like, hey, I've been having this free love all this time, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh no, you be gone. That's a long time to be gone. Well, you can be okay, right? Like, you've been good all these 40 years. All of a sudden, you struggling without me all of a sudden. So it was a weird little dynamic when they were having that conversation because she seemed interested, but also was painting and not interested at the same time. So it was kind of strange. And there's one other person he has to go and tell. And of course, it is the general. The guy we don't know why he's working for him, but still working for him at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah, he goes to the general, and the general is obviously just not really 100% on board. But he understands, he has to do his thing. He has to live his own life or, still have his own cover. But he still wants him to figure out who the spy is within the month. Well, we figured out who the spy was, right?
Yes.
But he still feels like there's a mole, or he still feels like there's someone still reporting back.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, it just seems like the general's just paranoid. Do you think that paranoia is ever going to go away in the series, or is general just going to go into?
I think because that is something they keep talking about, the general's paranoia. That has been a reoccurring issue throughout the series thus far. Right. And he's basically the captain's basically being told to exploit his paranoia, by his by Mon and company back in the north. So he wants the general to be this cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Yeah. But what he didn't account for, the captain, I don't think he accounted for the general's daughter, which is a prevalent character in this episode.
She's enticing. So just watching that character, and I'm like, I'm looking at her, and I'm like, okay, I really don't know how young she is when I'm watching this, right? And I feel like, I guess she's like in her upper teens, maybe like
she's 19. A college graduate, I believe.
Okay, so she's probably like 22, I'm thinking.
Yeah, she's like 21, 22.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 21, 22 or something like that. She's old enough to drink, I believe. I think. I'm not
in America.
Sure, but it feels like it was frowned upon a couple times in the show though. So and just to point out another point about the general, he's eventually, or he is now currently on the way to being a raging alcoholic who owns a liquor store, right? Perfect combo, sipping your own supply, brother. That is not good. And gets it for free now too. You think about it. I mean, he's paying for it.
I mean, he's paying for it, but
he's paying for his own dime, but no profit at this point. So yeah, he eventually decides, you know what, I'm going to leave. And the general, I mean, kind of inadvertently gives him the blessing to leave. So he's driving out, I guess we can call it the hills, I think we said. Didn't really give us a point or location in California, but we just figured it's in the valley or in the hills somewhere, like a scenic location. So he's driving, and he starts hearing thumping in the back of his car. I think he pulled over, right? Mm-hmm. And he heard like thumping and movement in his car, and he's like, what is that? And in my head, I thought it was Bond in the back seat, right? Just being like extra clingy and weird, right? And I'm like, oh man, he's looking for some action. He's looking, trying to maybe thinking like, somebody else is a spy and maybe take somebody else out on a crazy highway murderous rampage. Who knows what Bond's thinking?
We saw more of Bond.
Bond is the Night Stalker for all we know during the 70s. So I'm like, my God, that would be a crazy theory.
That's a good point.
Was the Night Stalker, I'd be like, not Richard Ramirez, everybody. Bond. So yeah, he starts hearing this thump, and he sees a piece, I believe, of like a yellow dress or like a yellow scarf, like
some cloth,
some cloth. So he must know initially who it is. In my head, I'm thinking like, oh man, Bond's wearing some weird clothes in here. So he decides to get back in the car and start swerving all over the place. And whoever's in the trunk is probably just like sliding, knocking their head, going to town. And eventually just pulls over really fast and opens the trunk. And of course, it's Lana, right? Lana decides to stole away. Who knows how long he's been driving already? What were you going to say?
And I was like, Lana just decided to just stow away in the trunk and take me with you.
Yeah.
No.
That's some crazy stuff right there, because
she was going to hitchhike back to the general until the captain felt guilty.
And she did that. And what was crazy is that like the first car stopped. It was like immediate. The car was like, ooh, let me pull over and pick her up really quickly. Which I was like, this is dangerous. I was like, you better not get in that car, girl. Like, I don't know how it was in the 70s, but I just didn't feel safe for her at this point. So yeah, like you said, the captain, he feels guilty. So he's like, I'm going to take you with me. But he does give her a condition that she has to behave, right? She doesn't say anything. She kind of just stays to herself. But Alana's a go-getter. We already know that. Or she's an opportunist, I would say, because it was her perfect opportunity to kind of wiggle her way into the showbiz, I guess you could say. Because I think that was what, episode 2, we got to see her as her Diana Ross version, right? Where she's like over here on stage and just singing for, what's his name? Oh my gosh. Major Dumpling's mom's birthday.
That's right.
She was out there in front. She wants to be center stage. That's what she wants to do. She wants to be a star. She wants to be in Hollywood. So maybe she heard, Captain over talking to her father and was like, oh man, I gotta go. Like, this is the only opportunity I'm gonna get because my daddy ain't gonna let me out of the house, So like,
I don't blame him.
Yeah, no, he sees what she's looking like. He's like, nah, like you're not getting caught up in this mess. So they eventually get to this valley shooting location where they're going to film, and we get introduced to a couple of the stars that are on here. You want to walk through some of the stars? Well, some of the people that we got to see that are going to be in this film or this movie that we've seen in other movies and films.
So the first two that come to mind are John Cho, if you remember him from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, Star Trek, things like that, as well as the former X-Files star David Duchovny. Was in this, as well as I believe his character was portraying a guy named Colonel Seamus.
Yeah.
And we find out that he's a method actor. So when you're a method actor, that means you are constantly in character. You don't get addressed by your real name. You act the character, you live the character. To the point where he's developed a bit of a history in Hollywood for being too method.
Yeah.
Starting fights, breaking property, acting the fool, things like that. And the John Cho character, and I'm sorry, everybody, but the name escapes me. He's basically the Asian guy that dies in every big budget movie. That is his character's claim to fame. He's Sean Bean of the 70s. So but just finding inventive ways to die. Yep. So, okay, we got some star power here. Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm with it. But what you see here is what the creative process of making a film, trying to be authentic, because it rears its head early when we talk about an authentic film. Because it turns out all the extras on the first day of shooting aren't authentically Vietnamese. They are Chinese. So the captain, because that's his job, says, hey, they're not Vietnamese. They're Chinese, because I guess what an on-site producer wants the extras to speak authentic Vietnamese,
right?
But they don't know the language, so they have to halt production while the captain wrangles up. I believe it's the general's people, but based on what we're seeing, to be extras in this movie. Mm-hmm. And again, the captain is paying dividends, it would seem, on the surface, right? Yeah. So they're filming this movie, this war documentary. It's like what was it, Platoon, circa 1974.
That was Tropic Thunder. I'm not gonna lie.
Or Tropic Thunder as well. Yeah, it's very Tropic Thunder-ish.
Yep.
So, in order to keep the authenticity of this movie, not only do the actors have to be Vietnamese, but the captain's saying, hey, they should have lines. Yeah. Because if you're invading their village, they're not going to be quiet when you have a gun to their face.
Right.
So they should have a line. And then Robert Downey Jr.'s character is Nico's throwing a fit. Oh, why give them lines? It just ruins the cinematic experience. But this is all part of the captain's plan, allegedly. Because what winds up happening is whoever gets a speaking role gets more money. But because since there's no fact checking and he's the fact checker, he's trying to get the actors to say lines gibberish, but that support North Vietnam. So, because nobody's going to fact check him, they're just going to put, again, the 70s subtitles on the bottom and keep it moving to the point where the extras, which again led me to believe that these are the general's men and women. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying hail to the North. Like, what is wrong with you? So, but what I loved about the filming of this movie is that everybody got Hollywoodish, right?
Right.
You got the captain started acting like a big shot. You got the daughter started acting like a big shot in more ways than one. And then you got the extras like shimming, certain things. And the 70s, and I'm thinking, man, because I've been on some film sets, but I don't recall even the extras acting the fool like that.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you in the 70s, nobody cared. Now, a little extra motivation for the captain was he did a walkthrough before filming even began, I believe, with the girlfriend of Nico.
Right.
And she's like set design.
Right.
And they're walking through authentic village, check. Landscape, check. Horizon, check. Grass, good, all that. They get to tombstones. They get to like a burial ground. And what winds up happening is, I forget how they got the photo, but there is a photo of the captain's mom on one of the headstones.
Yeah.
Almost like paying an homage to his mom and everything that she went through. I mean, she ate penis squid, so she's been through some stuff, she got pumped and dumb. So she's been through some stuff, circa 1970. So all this filming, right, for this war mockumentary or war film. So we got David Duchovny's character, who is at random points drunk, hasn't showered, belligerent, acting like a veteran who's shell-shocked, right? And even later in the episode where he goes missing, he comes back with like dead, like deer carcass, I believe, over him. Like he's some sort of hunter-gatherer type.
It's like tracking.
So it takes some turns when you're a method actor. Like, let's say like a Jared Leto that takes his things a little too seriously.
Yeah.
And even John Cho's character, he's trying to find the most dramatic yet powerful way for his character to die, to the point where he's a celebrity about this. Like, woo, everyone applauds. He walks in.
Right.
He's like, hey, how you doing, baby? He's got the sunglasses, the cool guy, right?
Yeah.
And then we got, as you put him, this fake Ronald Isley guy who's the new it guy. Yes. I called him fake Billy D. Williams. Like, he's the new it guy. And there's some racist shit that gets in this episode, and we'll get to that. So we have a cavalcade of characters trying to film this movie. Oh, and by the way, the captain still has a job to do. He's still trying to mess with the general's head. And what better way to mess with the general's head than have the daughter of the general be in this movie as a pro-North sympathizer?
Yeah.
Pun unintended. So I really enjoyed that part of it. The fact that, okay, we're getting a bird's eye view into old Hollywood. But aside from that, Cam, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah.
When we're watching this episode, are you connecting less to the captain because we took like this left turn at Albuquerque to do this film? Because I feel like we lost our tone. What say you?
Yeah, it definitely felt like you said, a left turn at Albuquerque Roadrunner episode. That's exactly what it felt like right now. Because I'm like, where are we? Like, where are we going next after this? Because this just seemed completely off the books, or just had no type of similar tone to what the other 3 episodes had, or what they were trying to convey as far as the message of where we're trying to go in the 5th episode. We definitely see less of the captain speaking to the communist comrade. So we see a couple little, montage little spots where they are having a conversation. You kind of forget that he's actually narrating his story for a second. You're thinking like, okay, I'm just reliving this movie scene. This has nothing else to do with, him being captured. And then you see it shows him actually having a conversation with the communist comrade. It's like, all right, what's this guy doing anything? Why is he just, and to our point where we keep thinking like, is he making this up? Is he making up more story just to survive? Because that's what it seems like. To buy time. Right? Just trying to buy time until he's actually saved by, like what side he really is. Maybe Bond. Yeah, exactly. That's why Bond keeps popping up in the story, because in every episode he keeps forgetting a part of the story, right? And
you forgot about Bond. He had to throw
Bond. And Bond had like one of the most important parts in this film. If you think about it, he was like, he played so many different extras. And Bond was like, yeah, I really like getting killed.
He was enjoying it. He's on the other side of death now.
he's like on the other side. He's like, wow, I really like getting killed. I'm really good at it. So now I'm like, oh man, Bond has a new job every episode, which I think is so crazy. He's like, he's a liquor store clerk.
He's a hitman.
Then he's
he's been,
the first episode, he's a soldier. He's a morning grieving soldier. And now he's turned into he's turning the Fall Guy. Actor. He is Ryan Gosling Fall Guy right now in the 70s. And I'm like, yo, what is going on? So yeah, I mean, I just definitely took a turn left for sure. And I was actually surprised that we got this deep into the film, because to point out a point that you had about the picture. So he had requested from the girlfriend if he could use one of the tombstones to kind of remember his mom, because he was at school when she ended up passing away, and she never told him that she was sick. So he didn't have enough money being here, and he was like, you know what, can I use this tombstone on mom? And I think he got a little bit too attached to the set, but because he kept revisiting this tombstone when he was having trouble trying to figure out what he was going to do next. And it's like, okay, like, I mean, I get it. I get the sentiment of, trying to respect, his mother, but eventually the set's going to be gone. Right. Yeah. And then what do you
take it with you?
Yeah. You can't take it with you. Like, that's physically impossible. And it was kind of stranger because I think Lana's character that she played in here actually had the same name as his mom as well, which I thought was very ironic as well. So I'm like, where are they fishing this information from that was able to kind of, connect the dots to kind of, it seemed like an episode where that was trying to kind of weaken the captain to show not only his sentimental side, but kind of give up a little bit more information than he was willing to. Because, like, if you think about it, he exposed the fact that he gave all the lines that were for the North communist side, which he shouldn't have done in the first place. And, they did that by softening, making the location better. I mean, not better, but more resembling where he grew up and lived.
Correct.
So it seemed like, I don't know, it seems like they're all kind of in cahoots trying to get this master plan to keep the captain not only down, but kind of pin him in a corner. What do you think?
And that's my question for me. This episode was, what the hell's the point of this movie? What is this setting up? What's the narrative we're building toward if we're just making a fluff, a war film? Right. So that had me thinking, and even now as we're talking about it, my brain still isn't clicking on what was the point of this other than to make the general's daughter a star and to trigger emotions within the captain to the point where he winds up getting fired later in this episode from the set. So what did this really do? So we're just talked through. We're basically on set with everybody. We're living this. We're living the movie prospects. And we have, I think it was like the first scene where they had to do a cut because of something the fake Billy D. Williams said that David Duchovny's character didn't like. Right. So gotta go back again. And you have Nico trying to placate to David Duchovny's character, Colonel Seamus.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, why am I supposed to care about Seamus? Like, why is he the central figure in all this. And we find out later to a point why. And he's just a dick. He's a Hollywood dick. And it seems as if everybody's a Hollywood dick. But to your point, and the one thing that made me laugh was that Bond just randomly showed up because, like you said, the captain is narrating this while he's still a POW.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, by the way, I forgot about Bond.
Right.
Why do you keep forgetting about Bond, bro? Like, think about that. Why are you? That's your right hand, right?
Right.
Bond's your left. Bond's your right. What you leaving them out for? So that's what I was getting. And then I'll go a little farther and just say during filming, the general's daughter, what's her name again? Lana gets a little too comfortable with being a Hollywood starlet, right? She's loving the attention she's getting. She's loving being in a feature film. She's got the hots for the new young actor, and seems it vice versa, and it's making the captain a lot of jealous, not even a little jealous. So he's finding ways to C block, even going back all the way down to the 70s. You still had C blocking. But the fact that this narrative just fit mostly around the captain's relationship with the general's daughter and how he's slacking on his mission reminds me of when they talked about, I believe in episode 2, where he grew up. I mean, he went to college in America and started losing himself. So him coming back to Vietnam had him going back to his normal self. So what are we to believe that now that he's back in California, and I may have mentioned this last review, that he's starting to lose sight of the mission, which is the whole point he's there for. So we're in the jungle with these people, and we're watching all this, and we're watching how the movies get made. The sausage gets made in the back, and the story just stops. Like there's no progression, and that was one of my worst things about this was we progressed the movie, great, but we didn't progress the captain's story, at least not to me. The audience may feel differently, but to me, not. And I know I've jumped ahead a little bit, but we can move forward and just say there was some shenanigans on set. There was a change in tone. Apparently, Nico had an epiphany while painting, and randomly was like, I'm going to change this from gunfire to airplane fire. And I'm going to use actual explosive charges to destroy the scenery. Like you said, now the captain is so attached to this. He's like, no, what are you doing? No, this is a bad idea. Why are you blowing up the village? Almost having PTSD of sorts, thinking this isn't going to end well. Also trying to stop the growth of the general's daughter within the movie because she's catching everybody's attention. Be it that she's pretty, be it that she's a good actress, what have you. So we get to maybe later in the filming, and I mentioned David Duchovny's character. He's gone. I'm MIA. We don't know where he is. Production halts until we find him. He might be out shooting ducks because he had an incident the night before, I believe, with Nico, where he's not all there. He's too deep into character. It's almost like Ben Stiller in Tropic Thunder. You don't go full. So he's full into character. We don't know if he's coming back.
No, he's never coming back. There's no way.
Never coming back. No way. So what winds up happening, and if I'm missing things, feel free to sprinkle them in. Sure. We find David Duchovny's character. He's carrying a carcass, a dead carcass that he hunted and tracked to stay in character. And he's also a racist in character. He's dropping pretty much N-bombs and making snide comments about, African Americans, thinking he's not going to get checked, but because that's how his character acts, he thinks he gets a pass. So there's tension here with him. Then there's tension with fake Ronald Isley. And it's one of those things where even I'm watching thinking, oh, no, he didn't just say that to him. I'll punch you in the mouth. So more egos. And where are we going? Nowhere, because we're stuck still on this damn movie. And because Bond is so good at dying and the general's daughter is so good at playing a victim, they decide to give her the role of roles. not only is the character named after the captain's mother, but the captain's mother or the character gets raped in the scene.
Yeah.
Now, that piqued my ears. That piqued up your ears.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, hold on. Because if you're an actor who's method, does that mean you pulling out the wang?
That's what I was thinking too. And
and I'm sure that's what the captain thought, right?
Right. And
so go ahead. So we get to this scene, right? So the captain has tried to change Nico's mind of everything at this point, to the point now where the captain, where Nico says, "No, you're fired. You're meddling too much. You're messing with my production. Everyone's associating you with this movie more so than me. So hit the bricks, kid," is what he said. But before he leaves, he goes to the tombstone and gets the picture crest of his mother that's on the tombstone, takes that back. And I still believe to this day, to now, that Robert Downey Jr.'s characters, he sees them all like that because that's his father. Whoever the main Robert Downey Jr. character is, it's his father. Yep. And he keeps seeing him in these stories. That's why we get to see him as such. So not only is the captain fired, he's still chilling on set, still walking around. Got to check on Stella. Got to see that her scene goes okay. Her scene to the captain did not go okay. If you've been on a film set, there's boundaries that an actor can say no to during a scene. Now, the scene is Seamus is going to have his way with the villager. We'll just say the villager. And because he just can't take it no more. He's been there too long. He's losing his mind. We've already lost John Cho. John Cho's character died in like some weird cutting him open, bleeding out, so bravo to that. And the captain sees that the rape scene's getting a little too close for comfort. So he waves the flag, which I thought was funny because you're waving a flag of surrender. So the fact that the captain is the one waving this flag of surrender, for me, just because it's a not a war film, but it's the Sympathizer, he's giving up. So he quits because he doesn't want to work for the general anymore. He's tired of this shit. I quit. So that's the signal for the actor to come and break it up. And he jumps in, and there's a fight between the two actors, and it's a real brawl because there's real vitriol there. Because you making racist epithets toward me, we going to work. We going to throw hands. And what winds up happening was we thought it was a great scene, but it really wasn't caught on camera well because it was a one-take Jake situation. And because the call sign went out early, it ruined the scene. To the point where Stella's mad at the captain saying, "I can handle it. I know what my limits are. You didn't have to go and be big brother and try to save me." She's like the whole, "I'm an adult. I don't need your help." And he's going to get kicked out of the actual set because he's ruined production. So what winds up happening? Nico goes through with his bombing scene. And in the midst of his bombing scene, the captain is stuck in the bombing scene, running in slow motion like the $6 million man trying to escape this bombing, which probably occurred in war. He might be having a flashback. Am I missing anything?
No. That was honestly, it was really spot on. The only thing is that I think so he got caught at the grave because he went back to visit his mom's photo because he was like still trying to I guess he was trying to not rectify the situation, but to kind of explain to his dead mother, what's going on. I need to pray. I need to figure out, what's going on. Why am I acting this way? But and then he sees the charge on the side of the grave, and then he just takes off running, and explosions are firing as these
like Platoon
flying above him and stuff. And it's crazy because you saw Nikos and all the other actors at the top of the hill. Did they not see him down there?
Probably not.
Because I'm like, maybe they're far away, but all you hear is action, and he's looking right at the captain as the bombs are getting ready to go off. So I thought it was kind of not weird, but I thought it was kind of funny. So it just seems like, I don't know. It seems like a lot of accidental on purpose things are going on.
Yes, accidentally on purpose.
Right? Like things are happening all right, maybe maybe Nikos or the whole group of the individuals, Hammer, Claude, the senator, maybe they all put the captain in this situation to see if he would actually shine for more of the North opposed to the South, to expose himself as being a communist conspirator, or and Nikos, probably thinks, oh, they're here to spy on me. Really, Nikos, we just needed you to exploit this guy, and you just happen to be like, an innocent bystander in this situation, until he gets the kill switch to blow the captain's ass up. So I don't know. This was such a wild episode, or just, I would say, strange episode.
Strange is a good way to do it.
Wild would be like something very exciting and extravagant that is going to lead us into the next one. But this one was kind of lackluster for me. I don't know.
And it ends with him still in the POW camp, present day, and they start singing their anthem together.
Because the re-education thing, right?
Yes.
He's trying to prove to him that I'm re-educated now. So I'm trying to figure out, is he captured by his own people? That's what
I've been saying. I feel as if he's been double agenting or triple agenting the whole time.
Yeah. So they can't trust what side he's on, I guess.
Because he's the inconsistent narrator, which we've been saying all season. And Mon makes maybe 1 or 2 appearances. Yeah. So maybe Mon's starting to lose faith in him as well, if Mon's real. Because it might be some memento thing where he's writing stuff to himself. So who's to say? So, but that's why you and I didn't like this episode too much, because we didn't get any definitive answers. All we know is he has the hots for the general's daughter, and he's re-educated. That's about it. That's all we knew.
Right.
And Hollywood's crazy. Cool.
Yep. We knew that already, but I'm just like, threw us an extra bone, like, oh yeah, just in case you guys didn't know, Hollywood's wild. Like, if you had to rate this episode, what would you rate it out of 5?
Out of 5?
Out of 5. No, it's a high
2.5.
For this episode.
2.5.
Wow, 2.5. Yeah, I would give it a 2 probably. And that's probably the lowest score I've ever given anything, honestly. So it still makes me I'm still excited to see what episode 5 is going to entail, because I feel like there's no way you can go lower than what this episode was rated. Like, there's no possible way, unless like Robert Downey Jr. is dressed up as Mrs. Doubtfire with these cosmetics, and I'm gonna be like, no, hell no, ain't no way they did this to my man like that. Give him an Iron Man suit. But yeah, anything else, Damon, you want to add to it?
I'm glad we got through it, because this episode was lacking in so many ways. So they need to pick it up next episode to keep our attention going.
For sure. Definitely not our favorite episode. But guys, at home, make sure you check out The Sympathizer, episode 4, premiering on May 5th at 9 Eastern Standard Time on HBO and streaming on Max. To check out more content just like this, make sure you guys check us out at biggoldbellmedia.com. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button to be the first ones to know about new content that we drop on a week-to-week basis. Until next time, peace.
Refugee.